This is your last chance to climb in set 4. I'm going to give you guys all the best comps to climb within the last week, and I'm going to give you a list of players to follow and watch so you can learn from them and get better, because they are the best players in the world and they are the best at the last weeks of the set. So I'll give you my recommendations right after we go over the comps. So scrolling down a bit, I have a brief summary up here. It's all about the 4-cost carry. You get Divine Warwick at the top, Ahri. Dusk is Jhin and Riven, Hunters, Ashe, and they use Kindred. Some people even go for like a 3-star Kindred in Hunters. Duelists, that's one of the hyper roll comps, but after that we have Ashe, which is another 4-cost carry. So lots of 4-cost carries dominating the S, A, and B tier. For the other comps such as Duelists, there are a couple of rerolls. So Yasuo, of course, Moonlight Aphelios, Moonlight Diana, Zed still done sometimes, and a couple people do reroll mage, not too many, but if you get great starts for those, you could go ahead and try those. And the other random comps we have here are the Enlightened comp with Talon carry, another 4-cost carry by the way, Warlords and Sharpshooters. And no one plays Cultists, so I would avoid that for this last week. So going down, like again, you guys already know we got all the other links down here, but you guys can check this out on my website, BunnyMuffins.lol. And if you guys need last minute climbing help or want to get a head start on the next set, we do have coaching available here if you guys want to do that. But let's get deep into the comps. S tier, Warwick, nothing's changed from before. You could go 4 or 6 Divine. We have 6 Divine listed out here just because I think that's like the best version of the comp, but that depends on game to game. So if you guys watched my last video, you'll know that you just need to get Warwick, get some Hunters, get some Divine units, and then he's going to carry your whole team, as long as you have like at least decent items on him. What are decent items? So I like having either Quicksilver or RFC. RFC is Rapid Fire Cannon, so it's not listed on this chart, but it is built with 2 bows, and that gives him extra range. So both of those are kind of like defensive items for him. After that, you want to go full offense. So Deathblade, super good because Deathblade's great on Hunters. And then after that, Runon's is great because it accentuates the Deathblade and pretty much makes him hit a lot of other people. After that, for the Hunters, you could itemize either Ashe or Kindred. You don't need to itemize them, but if you have them, like why not use them? You could also itemize some of your legendary units. So if you have a lot of good Yone items, just throw them all on him if you get a 2-star Yone. You round this composition off with the Adepts because Adepts are broken. You'll notice that a lot of the comps we're going to be going over this week, a lot of them have Adept because I've been talking about how broken it has been all set, and it is still broken because all the units are good and the synergy is good on its own too. If you guys want to get a quick look at how to play each comp after you guys watch the whole video, again, this is all on my website. It's like how to play, just quick notes, but these are more for like reference when you're in your games. So what some people have told me they like to do, they like to just have the screen up and then whatever comp they're going for, they just quickly scroll to that one and then they're like, oh, I need to hit level 7 here, level 8 here, things like that. So just stuff to keep in mind. Next comp is Ahri, Vanguard Mystic. Ahri, of course, like she's great. I love her. This is one of my favorite comps, but as we talked about last week, super flexible. You don't need to play these exact units. Ahri's the only like key part of this. For Mystic, I've seen played very often, so I would keep that. But for the front line, we have the Vanguards right now. You could use Adept. Adept's really strong too. It's just dependent on whether you get Yone or not. You could also run just other random tanks, such as like legendaries in the front too. You don't really need the Vanguards, but they are still good. Another option here is to run Mage. You could run 3 Mages with Ahri, especially if she has this item combination. She often kills units anyway, so I've seen a lot of people run 3 Mage, which was pretty rare in the past. And Ahri's gone on Wednesday, so if you enjoyed playing her, this is the last chance to do so. A tier, so A tier is a little interesting. Out of the 3 comps we were playing last week, the 3 that I told you guys to focus on, it was Dusk, Warwick, and the Ahri comp. I moved both the other 2 comps to S tier, but the one that's staying down in A tier is the Dusk build. It's not bad. In fact, it's a comp that you could play almost every game. It's just not as strong as the other ones. It has like a slightly lower power level, but it's still really good overall. It's still in the A tier. You should still be focused on playing it. And again, you want to itemize Jhin with Deathblade Runons, and again, you might have noticed already, they share items. So Jhin and Warwick, they use the same items. You could use either as your carry. And then Riven's items, they don't really matter. Even though that the items I list here are good, you could put literally anything on her because she uses anything from tank items, ability power, and mana items. She can essentially take anything and just run with it, which makes this build super flexible, which does make it a little bit harder to play because you might not be used to certain item combinations, but it's really rewarding once you master this composition. After that, we have the Hunter build. You guys know I love Hunters. Ashe carry, Kindred secondary carry. I want to introduce like a newish build that people have been trying. Kindred 3-star. People just stay level 7 and roll for Kindred 3-star. I wouldn't do this every game, only if you have a lot of kindreds. I just want to give you guys some options because this is something that not a lot of people play, but I've seen some top level players play this every now and then, and it looks really cool. But just because something's cool doesn't mean you should do it that often. So again, only do it if it's like the right game to do it in. I just realized I didn't zoom in yet, but hopefully you guys were able to see everything from before. So Duelists are the next comp. Only do this if you get like good Yasuo starts. Like same items as always that we've been building on him, like QSS is really good, Infinity Edge is amazing, Titans is a decent third item, you could go like Hand of Justice, lots of different options there. Again, this comp's pretty flexible, you could go 4 Duelists, 4 Divine, you could go 4 Duelists, 4 Enlightened, you could go 2 Duelists, you could go 6 Duelists, you could go 8 Duelists, you could go 3 or 4 Adepts. Adepts are really good to add in pretty much anything. You essentially just use Yasuo in the early game to get to level 8 or level 9 depending on the game, and then just transition into something a little stronger than this build right here. And that's just going to depend on your roles. I can't tell you what exactly you need to play just because you can't force certain builds all the time in this game. Oh, and the reason why I included Duelist in the A tier was just because the amount of times it was being played that I've seen. It's definitely much more than it has been in the past. And I'll be honest, I don't really know quite sure why, because I find that this comp is really hard for me, but maybe you guys have different experiences with it. We have to keep in mind, TFT is a game of like probability, and sample size plays a big role in this. And just because I'm not having a good time with it doesn't mean that you guys can't. So Ashe, it's similar to the Hunter build, except this one's more Ashe centric. You go for something like 3 Elderwood, 6 Elderwood, a lot of different options. I haven't seen too much 6 Elderwood. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I told you guys this last week already, but in case you guys missed that video, Ashe builds are pretty much just like Ashe and just any combinations of strong units. So she's really good if you want to transition into like the legendary soup builds, which just plays a ton of legendaries, and then you put all the attack items onto Ashe because attack items do not work on any of the legendary champions in this set. So here we have the 3 Adept, 3 Elderwood, 2 Hunter, 2 Dazzler, 2 Divine, 2 Mystic. Pretty well balanced. It's got pretty much one of every of the good synergies. And then you just throw all the attack damage items on Ashe. You could throw a defensive item on her, such as QSS. I like that one quite a bit. This comp is not as strong as like the Warwick comp. So if you get these same items, like they might work better on Warwick. Just something to keep in mind there. But sometimes you don't get Warwick. Sometimes you get like a chosen Ashe, and then you just have to play Ashe, which is fine. It's still going to be good. Again, like you can't go over the same comp every game. In a lot of cases, especially with the chosen mechanic. In previous sets, it was a lot easier to force just one comp the whole game, but with the chosen mechanic, and we're keeping the chosen mechanic in set 4.5, it's definitely rewarded flexibility a lot more. So now we're on to Moonlight Aphelios. A lot of people have been playing this comp, but I really don't think it's that good. Every time I've seen it being played, it's often like just fizzled out. And it's like a high risk, high reward composition, and you generally get hit with the higher risk part more often than the reward, from what I've seen at least from the top players. Like if you look at the very best players, none of them are playing this build. They like only play it like once every 20 games, but a lot of people in like Masters, Grandmasters, and Challengers, they're playing it, but the really high Challenger players, I don't see them playing it that often at all. Just something to keep in mind, but I think people like playing it because it's kind of easy to play, so they can kind of compete with the best players even though they aren't themselves, just because the game plan's pretty straightforward. A lot of your rolling decisions are made for you already, so maybe that's why people enjoy playing this comp. And when you do hit everything, you really do have a very strong power spike, so that's another thing to keep in mind. After this, we have the Enlightened build. Again, Talon's the worst 4-cost carry out of all of them, but if you get the items for him, you might as well just play him. If you get the 2-star Talon chosen, you might as well play him. Same thing with the Ashe. It's not bad. Just make sure you have a Morello for Morgana whenever you do this. If not, you just use the attack damage items for like Ashe or Warwick carry instead. Going on to the next build, we have Warlords. Warlords, like, you either get them or you don't in the beginning. Players like GV8 really like Warlords, but he's kind of like the only one who plays it that often. But when he does play it, he executes it really well. So it's kind of like a player preference. TFT is very far from being optimized, so there are a lot of different playstyles that work for all sorts of players. There's no one playstyle that's been discovered that's like, this is by far the best one, except for maybe the case of one player, which we'll get into right after we go through all the comps. Going into the next one, we have Moonlight Diana. Same thing with the Aphelios build. It's like, if you kind of want to turn your brain off, just like play Diana. It's just like typical Moonlight reroll. We've been over this before. You guys can see some gameplay footage over here. I also have a written guide here on the website. I'll try to leave links for these guides in like the top right corner or wherever it is. Hopefully I remember to do that. Next one, Zed Ninja Shade. A lot fewer people are playing Zed. He's definitely not as strong as what he was before, but this is the last time we're going to see him as a Shade, unfortunately, because Shade was really cool. It just made him like dodge in and out of every single fight. I thought that was cool personally. A lot of people hated it, but I thought it was pretty cool. Same items as always, RFC, Runon's QSS, and then you just build all the support items on him. Lots of Zeeks, like Lockets are decent too. Going on to the next comp, Reroll Mage. I personally never liked this comp, but a lot of other players seem to like this. Like you could go Luden's Nami, you could go Veigar carry, Annie carry's pretty good. You could use this to transition into other stuff. You don't have to play like Mage the whole time. Like you could use some of these items to go into Ahri and play Vanguard Mystics. The choice is yours. Just depends how many of the Namis that you hit early game. Sharpshooters were C tier last week, but I saw a couple people playing them. They do like the 4 Sharpshooter, 4 Vanguard version, which is like the standard version, if you'd like to call it that. Last chance that we'll see Jinx. They build all sorts of items on all these champions. Teemo carry is really good too, so you can itemize Teemo really heavily and then transition into something else, because you don't want to be playing Sharpshooters late game. It's kind of like you just have it and then you don't hit anything better, you keep it. But that doesn't mean you can't use Sharpshooters in the early and mid game and then transition into a better comp later. That's typically what people use this for. They itemize Teemo heavily, sell him, and then his items can be used on almost anyone. And you could also like keep Jhin to use him in all the Jhin comps as well. That's all for the B tiers. We don't go over C tiers. So let's go over the players that I guys want you to watch. Again, we have the summary here. Divine Warwick, Ahri Vanguard Mystic in the S tier. A tier is Dusk Hunter. And then like Duelist is like low A tier, high B tier, I think. The B tier, we have Ashe, Aphelios, Enlightened, Warlords, Diana, Zed, Reroll Mage, and Sharpshooters. So the player I want to focus on first is Salvi. So if we look at the top players in the US, I think I have them here. He's rank 1 right now, and he has a second account in rank 5. Keep in mind, like all these players up here, they're like the best players in the world. This guy won the world championship for set 3, so we'll definitely have to look out for him too. I did a piece on him, which you guys can check out later. But if we look a little deeper into Salvi's accounts, we can see that in set 1, he finished rank 1 on this account, rank 2 on this account. Let's look at set 2. Set 2, he finished rank 4 and rank 2. Set 3, he finished rank 1 and rank 14. Set 3.5, rank 1 and rank 6. Like this guy, he is probably the guy who's been on top at the end of each set the most out of any other player in like the Western regions. There might be some players who do the same thing in China or Korea, but I don't really follow those players as much. And no one has anywhere close to this type of dominance in North America. The top in NA always like changes between like 4 or 5 different people. I mean, the fact that he hits rank 1 in 3 of the 4 sets so far, and it's looking like he's about to do it for the 4th time in set 4, means that you guys should probably be checking out how he plays. And it might be hard to replicate what he does because a lot of these good players make it look so easy. But if you guys want to see like who the best is and see how they play, definitely go check out his stream. I'll leave a link in the description below or on the screen here. In preparation for the new set, guys, I'm working with a lot of high ranked players who are all going to be helping me make guides, and these are some of the best in the world. So definitely look out for that. So we'll have the meta snapshot on Friday, hopefully, and then a comp guide on whatever the best build there is sometime that weekend, and then hopefully every week I'll bring some new guests on to help both me and you guys learn how to play the comps in the best way possible. But that's it from me. Go ahead, check out all the links in the description below for Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next week.